Here's what's happening now. We've got a soaker of a weekend ahead, and it could be enough to cause a flooding problem. We'll look at those rainfall totals coming up. Sandra.
Thanks, Ben. Also ahead, fasten your seatbelts. This retired teacher has been to every country around the world except one. He shares his amazing journey with our Paula Tutman. Plus, terrifying moments as an SUV slides into a lake with an elderly woman inside. We have the story of her rescue. But up first, a missing person, a body found, and prosecutors reveal some chilling details about what they've discovered in Macomb County.
Local 4 News begins right now with a breaking news alert.
And good afternoon to you, everyone. I'm Sandra Ali in for Karen Drew today. We start with a chilling story out of Macomb County as we're learning more about human remains found in Ray Township. Those remains belong to a teenager. 2 other teenagers have now been arrested. Our Sean Lay was the first reporter there on the scene. And Sean, what a crazy story.
Crazy, heartbreaking for the family of the missing teen. And we learned a lot of hard information, the facts hard to listen to information coming out of court today. What we are learning is that the 2 teens that appeared in court charged with this are allegedly talking to investigators, allegedly making admissions to what they apparently did to this young boy, this teen. 2 teens in court charged with the unthinkable. Andrew Fiacco charged with shooting his friend Stephen McAfee last March. Fiacco and his girlfriend at the time accused of dismembering McAfee's body and hiding it in shallow graves, one right behind the Fiacco family home. Other remains left at the scene of the murder, 34 Mile in Van Dyke. Details revealed in court this afternoon, so hard to listen to as the prosecutor argued for Fiacco not to be released on bond.
You're talking about a young man who was shot multiple times, twice in the back, left in this abandoned field, dead, to decompose, at which point they showed up a month later and they dismember and mutilate the body.
The sheriff and prosecutors say both teens are changing their stories and they have no clear motive at this time. Fiacco is saying he shot McAfee when McAfee allegedly attacked him. Fiacco being held right now on no bond. McDonald got a $20,000 bond. If she makes that cash bond, she can get out on a tether. Sandra, coming up live at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Much more on the relationship between Fiacco and the victim here, McAfee. We'll show you home videos that this boyfriend, girlfriend that appeared in court made just weeks before the murder. So we'll have that coming up at 5 and 6.
Oh, very troubling new details. Thank you so much, Sean. And we are following more breaking news now as a Detroit father accused of killing and sexually assaulting his 8-month-old daughter has been released on bond. This is exclusive video of James Salt Marshall being released today. Prosecutors agreed to allow a $2 million personal bond. We know he has now been fitted with a GPS tether and has been released. Our Coco McAvoy spoke to Salt Marshall. You're going to hear what he told her. That's coming up tonight at 5 and 6. Police tell us they are investigating a horrible tragedy in Sterling Heights. That's where a 17-year-old died in a house fire this morning. Matthew Maraki Yaldo's 20-year-old brother, now in custody, accused of intentionally starting that house, actually in starting that fire, setting the house on fire. This is on Bloomingdale Drive. Investigators say some sort of accelerant was used, which is considered an act of arson. The rest of the family now being treated for smoke inhalation. According to the fire chief, the house did not have any working smoke detectors. A woman was rescued from an SUV that was partially submerged in the water at a marina in Van Buren Township. Sky 4 here showing officials pulling that SUV out of the water, damaging several docks. Officials say the woman thought the vehicle had been parked near the marina, but it was not in park, so it actually rolled into the water. 2 men helped her keep her head above water until firefighters got there. Thankfully, we're being told this afternoon she is expected to be okay. The first forecast, unfortunately, looking a little bleak for our weekend, but there might be some hope for a little bit of sunshine. Let's go ahead and check in with Ben Bailey. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Sandra, some is probably the operative word, but really the big word is going to be rain. It's not going to be a complete washout from start to finish, but that rain is just going to keep coming over the next several days. And the forecast totals, even though they'll be highest on the west side of the state, there's still a chance that some areas in southeast Michigan could see as much as 3 inches of rain by the close close of business on Monday. So out there right now, we're dry except for just down near the state line. Got a couple sprinkles that are showing up down near Toledo, but you can see a larger push of rain around Fort Wayne that's headed in our direction. So we could get wet as soon as this evening. We'll look at that and start to pinpoint a few dry spots in the weekend coming up in a few minutes. Sandra?
All right. Thank you, Ben. Tomorrow marks President Donald Trump's 100th day in office. The week started with the threat of a government shutdown that has now been averted, but just barely. Devin Scillian tracking a very busy day in Washington and where we stand on some key issues. Devin?
Doesn't seem to be any other kind of day these days, Senator, that's for sure. The White House started the week with high hopes and big talk about getting money for the president's border wall, maybe even some progress on health care reform. Neither of those things happening as we hit Friday afternoon. Instead, Congress scrambled today to pass a short-term spending bill to prevent a partial government shutdown. That bill only keeps the government running for one more week. President Trump has already agreed to push his request to fund the wall to the next fiscal year. And while a new health care amendment seemed to win support from the Conservative Freedom Caucus, there is no vote in sight to repeal and replace Obamacare, a central campaign promise, of course, of the president. President Trump says he is happy with his first 100 days. Not surprisingly, Democrats disagree.
Just what happened this past week is a metaphor for how poorly the president has done in his first 100 days. It's chaotic, it's ineffective, it's impulsive.
I don't know, we're moving awfully well, getting a lot of things done. I don't think there's ever been anything like this. It's a false standard, 100 days, but I have to tell you, I don't think anybody has done what we've been able to do in 100 days, so we're very happy.
You have to contrast that, though, with an approval rating that is at a historic low for any president as they hit their 100 days since the Truman administration. President Trump has had a busy day today, signing a flurry of executive orders. One protects whistleblowers at the VA. The other could expand offshore drilling, and he just spoke, we understand, with the NRA late this afternoon. So more from Washington coming up here on Local 4 News at 5. Sandra, I'll see you then.
Another busy day. Yep. All right. Thank you, Devin. One of the biggest foreign policy tests facing the president is the ongoing standoff with North Korea. And while the president hopes China can convince North Korea to give up its nuclear ambitions, he also offered this rather bleak assessment during an interview with the Reuters news agency.
Well, there's a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely.
Meantime, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was at the UN today saying the world community must do more to stop North Korea from developing any nuclear weapons. And he also repeated all options are now on the table. Pope Francis is in Egypt right now making a historic visit to the Middle East. Egypt's president greeted the pontiff as he arrived in Cairo. The Pope will meet with Egyptian religious leaders. He's also bringing a message of solidarity and a message of peace to a nation that we all know has seen increasing activity from terror groups and terror group ISIS. He's in Egypt for a busy two-day visit. Well, you are about to meet a local teacher who says he has traveled to every country in the world except for one, and it sounds like that is about to change. If you haven't counted lately, there are currently 196 countries around the globe, from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. Well, this retired teacher set a lifetime goal of seeing every single one. Our Paula Tutman caught up with him as he got ready to reach that goal. Paula?
Hey, Sandra. Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. You can see the globe is a really big place. But imagine being able to leave your footprints in every single country except for that one right there.
They bring me in.
He has seen the DMZ, or the demilitarized zone of North Korea.
This is the barrier that goes through existing buildings that were there. Everything from here on is North Korea.
He stood at the foot of Mount Everest, gotten thrown into jail in Zimbabwe.
First day in the country, just one of those odd things that happened. I was in deep doo-doo and knew it, but I was able to talk my way out of that. Come on down.
And Rufus McGaw, a retired teacher from Grosse Pointe, says he has traveled to every single solitary country on the planet, save one, Libya. And much to the chagrin of his wife, Monica, he plans to travel there in the next few weeks.
Well, he could get his head chopped off, or he might not be able to get back. Those are my kind of concerns.
For 50 years, he has spent a sizable amount of time, income, and energy going to places most would consider the most dangerous real estate on the planet, oftentimes sneaking in through back route countries.
Somalia, there's a way of getting into some of these dangerous countries and doing it the smart way. Let me see what I got here.
He's also fascinated with the most beautiful places in the world.
Ethiopia, in the Omo Valley. National Geographic calls this the last frontier of civilization. Look at the vegetation she has on her head there. Mount Everest is over to the left behind the cloud.
He uses films and slides because he says they're better quality. He does it all on a teacher's salary, often sleeping on benches or on trains to save money, going easy on his choices of souvenirs.
Okay, this is from Kyrgyzstan. It's a Nepalese hat. This here would be a Nigerian hat. His Georgia hat, not from the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia. This is from the Caribbean island of Dominica. It's made by one of the last handful of Indians that survived Columbus and the Western Europeans coming into the Caribbean.
All of this wanderlust, a sense of curiosity, learning and adventure that he shares with students and all who will listen. A former social studies teacher recently retired. He didn't use textbooks. He always used his travels. Okay, so that whole term, retired, is really a relative term.
Sure.
Obviously, he's a lifetime learner, and he still goes into classrooms. Seventh graders are his favorite, and he takes his slides, and he basically teaches people about things going on all over the world. He expects to leave for Libya in the next 2 weeks.
That is incredible. I was going to ask you what his plan is to do now that he's retired, quote unquote, right?
And he's hit every single country, which is incredible.
It is on a teacher's salary.
On a teacher's salary, but continents would be enough. You know what? He says he'll revisit some and look for different things. So it's not enough to just be in that country, but to find different things that are of interest to him. He has no plans to stop traveling.
What an inspiration to all of us who say we can't do it, right?
Right, and on a teacher's salary.
I know.
And a retired teacher's salary.
And I love those hats, too, by the way. Thank you, Paula. Great story. Still ahead here, first at 4, new rules. We're supposed to make it easier for you to count those calories, but will they ever go into effect? The battle that affects what you eat. And in trending stories today, revenge never tasted so good. The story behind something called troll cakes. But up first, safety concerns about thousands of pickup trucks. The potential hazard that could cause drivers to lose control. It's a Help Me Hank alert coming up next.
Exclusive. Coming up all new on Local 4 News at 5 and 6.
Cases of the flu are finally tapering off, but local doctors are still busy. I'm Dr. Frank McGeorge. Tonight at 5, see what illnesses are on the rise instead and the symptoms you'll want to avoid.
We're hearing from Toyota today in this Help Me Hank consumer alert. A new recall involves 228,000 Tacoma trucks. Toyota says the rear wheels can lock up and cause drivers to lose control. We're talking about certain trucks from the 2016 and 2017 model years. The affected owners will be notified by mail starting in the middle of June. The battle over counting calories at restaurants and grocery stores is supposed to end in early May, but will it really ever happen? New rules that require businesses to alert you about the calorie counts in food have been delayed for years. And while you may see calories listed at several places, some businesses are still fighting for another delay or even to change the legislation altogether. The very latest deadline is May 5th, so we're going to see what happens coming up next week.
I see 1,200 calories on the quarter pounder meal at McDonald's.
And you still order. I knew you were going to say that. It doesn't deter you.
No, not at all.
Especially not you.
No. And this weekend, a lot of folks are going to be eating indoors.
I know.
Because we got quite a bit of rain.
Sounds like a bummer.
Yeah, especially as we start stacking up the water towards the end of the weekend and early next week. And look at how much real estate are under flood watches all the way from the Red River Valley down in the southern part of Oklahoma, stretching through the Mississippi Valley and reaching all the way into Michigan. Right now, the flood watch is in effect until 8 a.m., and that's the west side of the state. But we are likely going to be added into that watch at some point, either tonight or early tomorrow, as the rain starts approaching. And you can see that there's a at least a band of rain right now that's just hanging out south of the state line. Likely we will see some evening showers in a few spots here. Air's been relatively dry so far. The model does not have a good handle on this stuff that's hanging out here to our south. You can see it tries to really dry it up almost completely until we get into the overnight hours. But what it does have a good handle on is the core of the wet weather, which is coming late on Saturday. We'll pick it up here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see most of that's still going to be on the west side of the state, but likely we will be seeing some areas getting wet in the evening hours Saturday. Everybody starts getting wet overnight going into Sunday. As that warm front creeps closer to us, there's going to be quite a bit of wet weather around for the day on Sunday. There will be some dry spots in between, so it's not going to be continuous rain, but you start adding up these totals, and that's where things start to get a little dicey. And this is going to continue into Monday as well until that low finally sweeps east of us and we can dry out going into Tuesday. But here are the rainfall totals. This is your 4-zone forecast. We'll start in the metro zone, where I think we'll see some of the lowest numbers. Now remember, this is total rainfall all the way through Monday, so really starting tonight through the early part of next week. There will be places here on the east side that don't even hit an inch, but look at how those numbers start stacking up as you get even just a little bit further west out towards Southfield, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches there in West Bloomfield. South zone, again, lowest rainfall totals would be out towards Lake Erie, and then we will see higher totals in the western portion of the south zone, close to 2 inches out there towards Onstead. But you look in the west zone, and this is where we think some of the heaviest rain is going to occur. This red stripe here is going to be close to 3 inches. And remember, that's going to be really a 3-day total, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But you still could be seeing areas top 3 inches, especially around Fenton as we get into Monday. And that's going to continue into our north zone as well, all the way up into parts of Sanilac County, with lower totals out towards St. Clair, which is about 1.1 inches. But just about everybody's going to see quite a bit of wet weather as we get through the next 3 days. 47 for the low temperature tonight. Scattered showers that we see overnight should come to an end before daybreak tomorrow. We'll spend most of tomorrow dry and then start getting the showers back in here in the mid-afternoon towards evening. And then it's a lot of rain going into Monday. High temperatures upper 60s through Monday and finally drying out, but cooling down as we get through next week. Sandra?
All right, thank you, Ben. Trending stories are coming up next, including a health update today from former President George H.W. Bush. Plus, what in the world is a troll cake? You might call it sweet revenge. In today's trending stories, more well wishes for former President George H.W. Bush. He's been released from a hospital in Houston after treatment for pneumonia and chronic bronchitis. A spokesperson says the 92-year-old former president is pleased to finally be home. He was actually in the hospital for 16 days in January and then 2 weeks this time around. Good thing to hear he is on the mend. Also today in our stories we're talking about, if you think pink Starburst tastes the best, you better get to the store pretty soon. Parent company Wrigley now saying customers are always talking about the pink Starburst, and Wrigley now claiming that over half of all references to Starburst on social media are about the pink ones. But the clock is ticking. This is a limited time offer. Those pink only bags are going to be available for just about a month. Also this afternoon, the motto of a new business could be revenge is a dish best served with frosting? Well, take a look at this here. It's called a troll cake. So if someone says something bad about you online on the internet, you can send them a cake that says something like, sorry, you're a hateful person. It'll cost you $25 for the cake and also the shipping. But obviously you need to know that person's address. So if you don't have the address, the company will do some digging. They will try to find that person, and it will cost a total of $60. I'm not sure if sending someone a cake would discourage them from writing bad things about you online, but I guess if you're that serious about it, you want to give it a shot, right?
Yeah, if you hate somebody enough to spend that kind of money, I'm fine.
But you have to find them. It's just, yeah.
Well, or just pay the $60 and let them investigate.
Have you ever heard of a troll cake before today?
No. And I'm hoping I don't get one.
Me either. Still ahead today, a good deed caught on camera, making the family of these two boys here very proud. The story behind this video coming up next.
It is one of the world's cruelest and most unpredictable diseases.
I was in my apartment and just weak, and I had to crawl on my belly, commando style, to the restroom. I knew something was wrong.
Lupus is an autoimmune disease that can affect the skin, joints, and/or organs, and it has no cure.
It broke my heart to see my mom crying over something that she couldn't fix.
I'm Kimberly Gill. How a local woman is living with this debilitating illness and helping others become warriors of this disease. That's tonight at 11.
The Art of Bread. Finally today, first at 4, too many times we show you someone caught on video doing something bad. Well, today we have just the opposite.
That's right. 2 boys in Utah were caught, in air quotes, doing the right thing, and surveillance video shows them even talking about it. The kids found a toy and some money at the end of a neighbor's driveway.
Well, some kids might have kept the found items, but you could hear them talking about their choice here. Both boys, they're only 5 and 7 years old, agreed they had to give it all back. A good lesson, I think, for everybody.
The skeptic in me says they knew there was a camera and they were playing.
You know, only you would say that. Here I am thinking they're just such nice boys. They did do the right thing. Thank you so much for joining us today, first at 4. We're back in a half hour with Local 4 News starting at 5.